And we're live. Okay. Hi, everyone. So as always, let's start with the round of updates. Who wants to start?
I can start if no one's happy to do.
No one's volunteering.
No one's volunteering. Yeah. Okay. So last week I did implementation of opening Atom, the plugin from the Atom entry. So if I could share the screen, because I've been asked to show it to others.
Yeah.
Let me just share the screen first. Where is the sharing screen? It's on the top somewhere.
Oh, the sharing, it's on the bottom, actually. I'll make you a host also.
Oh, yeah, there it is. Okay.
Oh, you don't need to be a host, maybe. Can you?
I don't need to.
Okay, cool.
Okay. So can you see my screen?
Yep.
So the idea is that we can open multiple plugins from the Atom entry. And what we are doing, if I could find, hopefully I'm on a proper branch. For that. So what we are doing, we are getting the identifier from the extensions of the Atom feed, and we are checking is the plugin actually exists. Whenever it exists, then we are starting to present it. This is this part, okay? So we have this new method, which taking in a first instance by the plugin ID. Otherwise, it's taking first by the type. So whenever this plugin exists and it's a new interface type, then we are presenting that plugin. Otherwise, it's launching the previous implementation. So the idea behind is that you can load here React Native or native plugin. The only thing what you need to do is to implement the plugin presenter I. There is a kind of change in the way how we're using it, because previously we were using plugin I. I've marked it as deprecated because it was setting up the map of parameters, and this is actually a duplicated value from the plugin itself, because the way it was sorry, I've lost the track. So where do I have cell click? So in the initialized plugin, we had something called configuration map. And the same value is here inside of the plugin. So I've deprecated that one as well. So whenever you're starting to use, whenever you're starting new plugin, you create new plugin, please use generic plugin I instead of plugin I.
Anna?
Yes?
I think that the reason we had this set params was not like to set them, like storing them, just to apply them, you know? We know that we have them. You understand?
No.
I'm thinking about an example. Did you see an example when somebody uses this set param method?
Okay, maybe this is something what you should explain a bit more. So you're saying that there might be existing plugins which doesn't have that object, or what are you saying?
Let me find an example, and if I will find, I will tell you later, okay? Because I think we do need this method, that it does being used in...
The method that currently exists in plugin I, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Well, from the other things which I'm working on this at the moment is showing the content related to the showing the access content type, whatever it means. It means if whenever we had things like pay-per-view or the subscription, we are showing a different batch. So it's a showing different asset type depend on the content type, on a content itself, not on the atom feed type. So yeah, so it's a very tricky one. So we have a couple of ideas how to solve it. Yeah, and we'll see what the next week will come with. So this is me.
Okay. Good. Want to add anything?
Yeah, Anna, I spoke about it with you yesterday, and maybe it's a good idea to raise it because somebody might have an idea how to improve it. I think there's a problem with coupling so tightly the data source with the plugins, because we can think on the following scenario. Let's say that currently you use one player or one article plugin, and in the future you will want to use, like, for some articles this plugin and for some articles that plugin, okay? So you won't be able to do this change on the data source level because it will break the old apps. I mean, you don't have versioning on the data source.
That is fine, because you can define the class on your plugin, okay, and it might be even the class which comes with your plugin. So if you create a native plugin, you define the class to which implements that plugin, whatever it was, plugin presenter in I. And that's it. It will just use your class. If you need to different mapper, then I mean, I'm happy to discuss it, because I agree that this is not a proper solution. Okay, this is not something what I came up. It's just the limitation with which we got at the moment. So I'm more than happy to discuss how we want to.
Yeah, but let's say, don't mind the old implementation. Let's say you want to use a YouTube player combined with, I don't know, another player plugin that we have, okay? You won't be able to. I mean, if you want to, like, in the future to add another, let's say for ProSieben, you will want to add a YouTube player.
Okay.
You won't be able to, because the YouTube player will be invoked in the old apps, and you don't have it as a plugin on the old app. You understand?
No.
Because the data source will instruct YouTube.
Yes.
Let's say we have a video that needs to be played in YouTube, and a video that needs to be played in the standard player or the ProSieben player or whatever. The data source will instruct the video to invoke the YouTube player, even if it doesn't exist, and you don't have versioning on a data source. That's what you're saying.
Yes. So
can we do it safely, like saying, I think she's doing, if the plugin exists, if not, it will fall back.
Yeah.
She's just checking if the plugin exists. So it's for all the
I do understand what you mean now. I do understand. So you're saying that I got YouTube player, but my video is not YouTube? That's what you're saying?
No, you don't have the player on the app.
That's fine. It will use the default player then.
Yeah. It will fall back.
In that case, maybe it's fine, but maybe the default player cannot play the specific video that you are trying to play, you know? Maybe you have for position.
But that's okay. I understand, Gil, what you're suggesting, what you're saying. But the problem is, when we came to run with a similar issue about trying to invoke a plugin that is based on the type of the content that we're trying to display. We have this issue on articles, and we have it in other similar cases, right? Like multiple articles and there are other cases where we're trying to do the same thing.
I think New York team got the same thing with the audio.
Okay.
Yeah. So the idea was, in the future, there's going to be some functionality in the UI builder to decide what screen you want each component to use, like targeted screens. I guess that's what I was told by Ran. So
targeted screen. We have targeted screens.
No, but saying that you want maybe not just screens, maybe plugins.
Yeah.
So
okay,
for
we
us,
talked about like this URL thing.
Yeah. For us, we want to display, let's say, a show screen that is based on a plugin, and we need to invoke. We need to tell the UI builder what show screen to open, either the plugin show screen or the standard show screen.
Yeah.
And so, since we need a solution now, we need something to do with it now.
Yeah, you can't wait for the solution.
Yes. So the idea was to take something that can be controlled remotely.
I know,
so that when we decide to deprecate it and not use it anymore and move to the actual product implementation, we can do that without changing anything. So we decided to go for the data source.
My only concern is that you are forcing deprecation of, you will be forcing deprecation of
the app.
Of apps that are on the app.
Okay. But we're willing to take this risk, because if we're doing something now that we are ahead of what the product can give us, and the only option that we have is to work on the data source side, because it's the only thing that is controlled remotely, and we can decide not to use it at some point.
Yeah, I mean, if you're taking this into consideration, that's fine. I just don't want it to be like
a surprise
situation where we cannot break in the future, because we will have to break it.
I understand. And if breaking means deprecating and aligning everyone to the new implementation, then we'll have to do it.
Whenever, Gil, you will be breaking it, you need to take under consideration as well that just targeting the usage of the plugin from the UI builder is not enough, because our case and New York team case is based on the content. So, okay, for us, we got a single article or the gallery of the articles. So we show two different plugins. The designs are different, and we have to show two different plugins. And it's based only on the content. So it's object or it's an array.
Okay, even if it's coming from the data source, I think we can have another layer that we can control, like another plugin that just maps IDs to plugins. There you can, if you want to change, you won't have to deprecate, because you will be able to control it better than just saying, okay, this is the ID. Okay, but if you are saying that you are willing to duplicate if needed, then it's okay.
For now, it's the only go that we can take for the time that we have for these projects.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Anna. All right, who's next?
Yeah, I can go next. I don't have much. I'm just like a heads up. In the near future, I will add the change to the navigation. I think I talked about it. It's separating the toolbar from the menu itself, like the root, what we say, the root activity, I don't know, the root manager. So it will break some of the existing plugins. So I won't merge it. I mean, I will publish it and I will merge it only after I will give you some time to adjust.
What plugins are going to be broken? Do you know?
Actually, we don't have much. We have the bottom bar.
Bottom bar.
And we have the parent zone for baby, which for some reason is a root.
Okay.
I think that's it. So it's not that much of a work.
Okay. Atanas, you're smiling because of that, or it's not related?
I'm smiling because of the bottom bar.
Of what? Sorry?
Because of the bottom bar.
The basic goal was to provide a quick whistle stop.
Well, it's not very funny actually, but
yeah, I understand. Okay. All right. You actually have some news about the bottom bar, right, Atanas? Do you want to share?
Feeds from.
What do you want to hear first? The good news or the bad news?
Oh my God, I didn't know there were bad news, but start with whatever you want.
So you can see.
Okay, so I'll share my screen for the good news. So I'll start with them. How do I share the screen?
Have your player and are looking for
yeah.
a quick solution for mobile and TV apps.
Okay, can you see? Can you see my screen?
Yes. Have you guys done intros on your side?
Cool.
Yeah.
So sorry.
Okay. Well, let's do that first. Yeah.
Okay. So if you are using the bottom bar plugin on certain devices like Samsung S8, your apps will look like this. To my knowledge, it is affecting all apps. And this is the pull request for with the fix. So this is the fix on Sport Deutschland, and no regression here, no regression for tablet. And the fix is we are doing this update content frame height, which is not very elegant because we are doing it too early. And then certain components somewhere are trying to override what we are doing here. Even if we calculate the new height, like the calculation, this calculation is correct. But we are using knowledge, for example, this status bar height. It's not coming from the layout, but it's like something that we know the size of. So it's breaking, and the fix is actually to let the components do what they do, and just do something like where is it? Yes, something like this. So gravity and sorry, let me get to the pull request. Branches. Yes, so this is the margin bottom. So it will just shift the bottom bar up, and we won't have to calculate the height. We were calculating the height because the bottom bar was sitting on the top of the content. So it was covering the last element. So we did this calculation. It wasn't the best choice, but this is actually working. I have also removed some old things that were there because of the shy behavior, which we never supported anyway. So the shy behavior is related to the bad news, which is that this the original library that we used to build the bottom tab bar is deprecated. And one of the issues is the shy behavior. The shy behavior has an issue. So if we want to fix it, like it will be kind of difficult. We will have to support it on our own. So this is pretty much it. Let me stop sharing.
Okay. Kareti managed to see
Can
it?
you go a little bit, Atanas? Hold on 1 second. On your pull request, why are you setting the margin of the content with the to the number? Why don't you just set one on top of the other?
Because the embedding layout is not linear.
What?
The layout. So these are part of a layout.
Yeah.
And it is not a linear layout.
Is it like a merge? I didn't see the
yeah.
layout.
So if you open it, if you open it, you'll see that it's a frame layout. And this is kind of a hard constraint because it's a frame layout in other infrastructure. So I could just say it's a linear layout, put the content on the top of the bottom bar, and everybody's happy. So I had to use a margin.
Okay. I will. Do you have Sketch?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just I don't know. The thing is, it's just funny to solve it like putting a margin of the bottom bar.
Is what I do everything.
Well, it's funny
But
to calculate the height.
What?
It's funny to calculate the height in this way.
Yeah. That was even stranger. So to actually calculate the height, was done that way. But, no, it was just curiosity because I work with the bottom bars, the normal ones. Like in a couple of times actually, and the just obvious way to do it is just use a linear layout as you mentioned, and put one on top of the other one, assign weights, and good to go.
Yeah, we can't use the. I actually went for this solution, but there's a hard constraint. Even if I modify everything in the bottom bar plugin, there's something in the root manager that is assuming that it is a frame layout.
Okay, yeah, it was just curiosity.
Cool. So that's about it. And something very interesting, but Hani's not here. Is she? It was a very cool way of dealing with transitive dependencies, doing exclude in the POM file, really cool stuff. But maybe next time she can update us.
Okay. But you said there were bad news also.
Yeah, the bad news are that the bottom bar is not supported; it's deprecated. The official project. So it's on we are on our own. We can't rely on community or whatever. And I suspect that they deprecated.
What project? Sorry, the project on which you based the initial solution. It's not the Android standard code because they added bottom bar now supported in the support library as far as I understand.
Yeah, it's in the support library. So it's in the design support library.
Yeah, it is an older plugin.
Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe now that it's deprecated, it might be worth considering at some point do even a granular change and just align to the standard of Android. It might
maybe it would be a good chance when I break what I said earlier.
Well, if you're already breaking, let's do the mother of all breaks and redo it.
No, I think it will actually be easier to adjust what Gil is saying rather than introduce the new one. We can keep them for a while, but eventually I think we should deprecate this one as well, or it will be just difficult to support it properly.
Actually, we will use only the React Native navigation.
So you don't see a need to support the native one?
Yeah, I don't know, because eventually it can be 1 year from now.
Okay.
So you mean that the bottom bar will be done in React Native, you mean?
What?
I didn't understand that. You mean the bottom bar will be done in React Native?
Yeah, the UI builder will use mostly React Native menus. So the first one will be the regular side menu, and in the future we will be able to add whatever we want.
Okay.
And it will be like platforms.
I think until then we'll probably have enough time to try and integrate the official
Yeah, heads up with that one. It might be worth taking a look at another one. I used that one in the past, and it has certain constraints in the behavior that is extremely annoying. And for example, if you put more 4 items, you know, it will have these weird animations, and it can be pretty annoying. So I've been using another one, which is sort of an extension of that one. I cannot remember. It's Navigation Bottom X. I can share the link. And it's a lot more powerful. It's a lot more customizable. Like you can customize it a lot more. And in my opinion, it works. It's a lot better to work with than the normal one, because the normal has certain behavior that it's really opinionated, like in the way the navigation should work, and it can be pretty frustrating. So if you don't want exactly like that, so you cannot modify it. So I'll share with you the other one. I cannot remember the name.
Okay, cool. All right. Thank you, guys.
Maybe Hani can explain about the exclude in the POM file.
Hi, Hani.
Hi. I'm sorry, I just joined. Atanas, what do you want me to explain?
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be interesting to explain the problem that you had with transitive dependencies and the way that you solved it.
So actually, I'm not sure the way we solved it is the best way to do that. But the issue was that I use a, so it was in the OS Player plugin, and the OS Player used another library, like Android library, which has a different version of what the Android SDK used. So what I did is exclude this library and exclude it from two. I'm sorry, I'm a bit confused. So I exclude the same version, but I think it's not the best solution because we will need to update. We need to update it when we upgrade the Android SDK Google library, like Android library. So
okay, it might be better.
Okay, maybe I can explain the way I understood the problem. So you have an app A, and app A depends on module B, and then app A is using plugin C that depends on module D, and module D depends on module B. Yeah? Is everybody following?
We left you, Atanas.
So, okay, so you have two things that depend on module B. One of them is the main app, like it depends on the Google library. And then the main app depends on your plugin, like it has a dependency. And your plugin depends on something. And this something depends on module B as well.
Yeah, it will pick, Gradle will pick the highest one from what I remember, actually.
It's actually, it's actually, like it's not compiling. So the way that was solved, like in Maven, you can add exclusions. So in your plugin, you can, when you're listing your dependency, you can add exclusions to your dependencies, to the dependencies of your plugin. So you can say exclude the Google library, yeah. And because we don't just modify our Maven POM files manually, we are writing Groovy scripts that do this for us. So it's Groovy script, the bin tray upload. When it's creating the POM file, it is adding the exclusions. And when you add your library, when you add your plugin to the main project, it compiles without any complaints. So
that's a tricky question because dependency conflicts, like having two libraries, like like relying on the same library, so the same third-party library, whatever, like Google's or whatever, with two different versions. That's something that maybe you can solve in compile time, but it might crash in runtime. So be aware of that. And because the thing is that at the end of the day, what will happen is only one of them will be included. And so what happens is if you're relying on an older version, which something has changed, usually nothing major has changed, unless you changed, if the people from the library has used, actually proper naming, then jumped from 2 to 2.0, so 2 to 0.1, it will not matter, but 2 to 3, obviously, but sometimes they don't follow that thing, the semantic naming. So just be aware that it could, like probability low, but it could happen that there's a crash in runtime because, something that has changed internally and is not available in the newer version. So.
Yeah, got you. If they, well, to me, the solution is to make the third-party library not depend on something as general as the Google library. To me, this would be the solution. But like, if you can't tell them to remove it,
the app itself, in most cases,
I think it's a pretty fancy way of managing transition dependencies.
Yeah, that's pretty common with the support library too. Like remove the transition with support libraries from many different places.
Well, it's the way it's done in Maven is not actually pretty common. It's actually quite complex. And
there's a backend
yeah.
So what we call data source plug needs to be written, which gets added to the app.
Cool.
Points to the relevant API.
All right.
The content for the apps.
Thank you. Tarek, you want to go next? You wrote an issue today on the Android channel. Maybe it's worth mentioning it.
Yeah, sure, I can go next. Okay, I can start with the small update regarding what I've been doing past week, and then I will mention the issue. So I've been working, like I told you not last Tech Talk, the Tech Talk before, like for 2 weeks, I've been working on the Chromecast support for our full screen player. So I have finished the task and it's now in pull request. I think it will be reviewed by Elad Kariti the next few days. Hopefully, also the implementation was tested in multiple apps, also with some of the ProSieben apps to make sure we are not breaking anything. For now, it's working it looks very, very good. So hopefully, it will be reviewed in the next couple of days and will be merged to our SDK. Of course, documentation also will be provided on how to enable it for your apps and so on. So this is for the Chromecast. Also, Guy, I will be needing to update our our Play services because the version that we are using now has a lot of UI bugs for the Chromecast, and most of them are solved with just updating our Play services to 11.8.0. So the question is what is the process we need to do in order to upgrade them? I like to update the Play service without affecting
Yeah, so 11 or 11.8.0, right?
Yeah.
This is not the first time that I hear about it, by the way.
Now it's we have the 11.0.1.
The correct way to go about it is to decide which SDK version we're going to do it with. And for us, it's important to say that we need to keep on relying on existing SDK version until the developers on ProSieben side comply with our change, because once we update the SDK, we cannot build their apps and et cetera, et cetera. So we just need to be coordinated with them, and for us to know internally what SDK version is going to have this change, and to be sure that we can still use an existing SDK version until they comply with the change on their side.
Yeah.
Similarly, by the way, they want to do another update on one of the libraries. I will talk about it after you're done, Tarek.
Okay, we can also update our support.
This is the way we handle.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So we will coordinate, and
All right.
we'll, for now it's only UI bugs, but it's they are annoying bugs. So we should like update as when we can, when it's possible. So this is for my Chromecast development. The bug I have found today is like I tried running Reshet, or my application I'm working on with the latest, on the latest master and dev and so on, but it crashes on start. So after debugging, it's saying for our API interstitial activity, it's like the crash log is saying like only full screen activities can set orientation. And I started like digging deep and like searching for what could be the reason, and apparently it's a change that Google added, so to restrict from like Android 26 and above, you cannot like set what do I forgot the 1 minute. Let me look at the message. Okay, so you cannot set the orientation if your activity is not full screen. So I'm not sure how can this be solved, because there are many issues and bugs open for Google and AdMob and many. Like I saw many threads, many people are complaining about it. I think for now there's maybe one workaround that I saw, but I'm not sure. I did not test it yet because I'm busy doing other stuff. But in general, this is an issue we will face you will face also if you have an interstitial defined in the CMS in your app. So yeah, not sure about the solution. There is no solution for now from Google's side, and the workaround has not been tested. So yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Maybe someone knows, is there a reason not to set this activity as full screen? Because it might just solve it.
Sorry, you say what?
We talk about the interstitial activity, or?
Just setting the interstitial activity as full screen.
Like hard-coded full screen.
Yeah, on the manifest, because why wouldn't it be?
Maybe, I'm not sure. Should it be below the status bar?
I think interstitial is the
yeah, of course.
screen that you show.
I'm just asking from UX perspective if it should be below the status bar of the device, or it should cover the entire screen. That's the difference basically between full screen and half screen.
Yeah, but even if it shouldn't be below if it should be below the status bar, it might be the only solution we have without. You need the 27 support, right? And there's a bug, as Tarek said, on the SDK level of AdMob.
I see.
Google. So if you just set it as full screen, it might solve it.
We need to understand the differences in the behavior. It might be okay, but I don't know to tell you right now what changes.
Because I don't see any reason not to do it.
Okay. Makes sense.
All right, cool. Yeah, so this is for me.
By the way, Tarek, I think the only place that the manifest defines it is the feed, which makes
defines the base activity, the interstitial base activity.
Yeah.
No, it's in our SDK.
Ah, okay. So I missed it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. There are two things that I wanted to share. One is something that actually Kariti fixed, and I'm going to have to try to explain it in his name, what he explained to me, or maybe Gil, if you know a little better. Okay. So there is a regression in the existing SDK, or it's not really a regression. It's a change in the existing SDK that seemed like a regression. with the background color of headers. And actually, I can use Athanas's pull request that he did for the bottom bar just to demonstrate what I'm talking about. So I'm going to share my screen. And now you see my screen, right? Okay, so ignore everything that Athanas wrote about the bottom bar because it's not related to what I'm talking about, but the screenshot that Athanas added actually demonstrates the problem that I'm talking about now. So in Sports Deutschland, we have headers, and actually it's a specific header that we created for Sports Deutschland with a specific background color. Anna knows it very well. And suddenly in the Dev SDK, this background color became black, and we didn't know what happened. It was a regression, and it actually blocked the SDK from being released. And after discussing about it with Kariti, it's actually a change that Kariti did to fix something that was created by Alex, I think, when there was a change to the layouts versus UI builder coloring of headers. That's what I understand.
So maybe you're talking about another thing, but I know
you're not sure it's the same thing.
It's probably the same thing.
The idea was where the color key for the headers is taken from.
Yes.
Okay. So basically, there is a color. There is a color a key that is called background header color, and it needs to be set in Zap in order to fix the color. But previously, it was taken from somewhere else, and it worked for us. But after this change, it has to be taken from the key that Kariti specified. The background.
It's already on Zap?
It is already on Zap.
Okay, so the change was because we had some components like the carousel, the horizontal list view, and I think there was another one.
Yeah.
That, unlike the other components, it didn't load when you load all the components of the composite one. But you only did the load on the get view of the composite adapter.
Okay.
Like you loaded it each time, so it changed it, so it will get load only once. And actually, the reason was because you were loading the let's say the carousel or the horizontal list view only when you wanted to show it, you were not able to present the title of it, like, unless it was, you couldn't get it from the data source of the horizontal list because it wasn't loaded yet.
Okay.
But you needed it. So it changed it. So it means that the actual view that you see as the header is the view from the composite and not the view from the standalone component.
Okay.
Understand? So this is why the change was from the key perspective.
I understand. Okay.
So yeah, it's just changing the keys on that.
So basically what Kariti did was to change it back so that you can customize the background color from a key in Zap. And if you did not set the color correctly, you would get this regression that I just described. So it's not really a regression, it's just another configuration that needs to be done in Zap to solve this problem. Okay, and so that's one. And the other thing that I wanted to update about is a future change that we might need. And I want to know if anybody here can share their thoughts about it. An update to the Exomedia version yet again. We updated it recently to 2.6. And now there is a need coming again from ProSieben to update it to 2.7. We don't have Javier.
Yeah, this might affect me with the Reshet because I'm using Artimedia as an ad provider, and they are using internally Exoplayer. And I remember there was a conflict. This is why I did the 2.6. So yeah, it might be okay if we upgrade, but I need to test to make sure we don't break the Reshet.
Yeah, I understand. It's not imminent. It's not happening right now, but it will happen sometime soon that we will need to do this update. So again, another dependency between the development teams, but we'll have to figure this out. Just as a heads up. All right. So we have approximately 10 more minutes. Pablo, do you have anything?
Yes, I'm very fast.
Yeah.
Because I work mainly. Okay, do you see my screen? Do you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Basically, the only thing I did this weekend in Android is to clone a React project because we had this dependency, React Native SVG, for one of our React screens. But the problem is that I was receiving, when building the project, I was receiving that React Native was duplicated resources. So basically, I had to change to clone the project and to change the compile with the provided here. So basically, if you need this dependency in any of your plugins, know that it's already in the Applicaster repository. That's all.
Okay, nice.
Can I get back to a bit with the dependency issues that we talked before? I need 3 minutes.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I think that Pablo can solve the problem by in the POM file as well, in the same way as we did for the other project. And then the situation that we addressed, I believe, is when the third-party library has added the classes of the most recent version of whatever library as a jar or AAR. Yeah? So Gradle can't resolve it in this case. So even if you have the same version, if you add it as a jar, which I think they did, you need to exclude it or clone the project and configure it. What I think Pablo is doing.
Great. Okay.
So that's it. Less than 3 minutes.
Less than a minute even. All right, thank you. I think we're just left with Alex. Alex.
Guys, so basically last week I was working on
Hello.
so I added I'm in the taxi now as well. Working on the section picker, so now we can configure the cell styles for tabs. I know that sometimes we need a different size of the tab, and people in different families were using completely different approaches. We decided to align with whatever iOS has, so now you can inflate custom tab, custom layout for tab, and you can specify the widths there. That's pretty much what I was doing. So, we can see better now. Also, I was working on the clickable headers, and I learned that in Android, we're not supporting specific instance where, for example, the screen doesn't have a data source of itself, and the component on the screen, supposedly we should reuse the parent data source whenever we open the screen, and we should populate, I believe, first level of data. But in our case, we're not populating anything, so we open an empty screen. I think Gil was working this logic, and we might open another ticket to try to correct this problem. And back to the clickable headers, it should be working now. Surprisingly, we have once again another logic there that Anna did, where, as I understood, we can specify in Zap pipes the link, and if this link exists, then the header would open sort of deep link. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, but I did a hack on my family. So basically, I was on a family padding setter. I set up the header on as a clickable. Otherwise, this deep linking didn't work.
Yes. So I guess
Alex, Team Israel did it for the general header.
So I try to support both of the logic, with the logic coming from pipes would be in priority. But yeah, I guess we would, whoever is planning to use the clickable headers might review their approach. Now, this week I'll be working a lot on ads. There's like the whole story of us switching to smart banners, and there's a very tricky one, is an inline banner, where pretty much we'll be injecting ads in the lists of grids. Very excited to work on that. not. So yeah, that's what's going on with me, guys.
Okay.
Just a correction, Gil. I'm not taking any credits. I used your implementation, which was already there. It just the header was set up as a not clickable at the time. So it's just a workaround I've used on a family padding setup.
All right. Well,
okay.
That's it on my side, guys.
All right, guys. I think we're out of time. Thank you all. I'll upload this, as usual, to the YouTube channel for everyone who could not attend. Thanks, everyone. Have a good rest of the day.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.